Welcome to the introduction video for our music theory course. Hi, this is Tom S. from Honey Music School, and in this video I'd like to go through with you the song called RPG by SEKAI NO OWARI as an example of what we cover in our music theory course. The course focuses on Japanese music, so if you like Japanese music, this course will help you understand the hows and the whys your favorite Japanese music sounds so good from a music theory perspective. So, without further ado, let's begin. Okay, so RPG by SEKAI NO OWARI. This song is the main theme song for the anime movie Crayon Shin-chan. It's about friendship and adventure. The structure of the song is such that it starts with a chorus part, so I've called it C. Then comes the A melody, B melody, and then the chorus. Next section, there's an interlude called D, and then again goes through the A, B melodies and the chorus. The third part is another interlude, E, followed by the B melody and the chorus repeats a couple of times at the end. So that's the structure of the song. So the key of this song is in E major. We talked about the friendship and adventure characters of this movie, right? This characterization, if you listen to the original song, much of the characterization is done using the marching bass drum and the thick strings and chorus that overlays. The adventurous, courageous, triumphant characterization is done by very effective use of subdominants, borrowed minor deceptive cadences, secondary dominants, circle of fifths movements, and line cliches. So, let's first start with the lyrics. It would be good to understand the meaning of the lyrics before we understand the musical elements. So we're looking at the first verse here. As we talked about, the song starts with the chorus part. So the sky is clear blue, we are heading to the ocean, there is nothing to be afraid of, we are not alone. Right? Very bright, cheerful, forward-looking, and this is probably the most important lyrics of the song. Obviously because it's used in the chorus, but it's also repeated many, many times. Probably 40 to 50% of the song is comprised of this chorus. So now let's look at melody A. That night, when something precious broke, I was walking alone looking for the star. I wonder if you were also watching the Perseus meteor shower. I'm doing fine, where are you now? So this is sort of a statement of what things are, right? The current status here. That's melody A. Melody B sort of counters or responds to the A melody or the A lyrics. Don't get caught by the devil called the process. Remember the important thing called purpose, right? So that's a big message that sort of helps or supports the lyrics in melody A. Let's look at the total structure of the song from a musical perspective. We talked about the structure of the song. If we break it down into those elements, A through E, right? As I briefly mentioned, section A, or melody A, is sort of the situation statement. B, or melody B, is sort of the answer or the response, or something that supports the situation statement. C, again, is the chorus part. It's the main theme, right? That's the biggest part. D and E, we said those were the interludes, right? So the D has this marching, moving forward feeling, and E is sort of a reflection mood, okay? Now, what you see here is for the answer part, the main theme, the chorus, and the reflection starts with a subdominant. As you know, subdominant really doesn't land someplace or isn't really an unstable chord. It's somewhere in the middle. So it floats. And this floating element really helps the answer and response section, as well as the main theme, as well as the reflection, especially in the reflection, because it's a one full measure of the subdominant, which is sort of in the middle. That really helps provide the feeling of uncertainty. Where are you going? You're going somewhere, but you really need to determine where you're going, right? Contrasting to that is line A and the D, where the statement, you can see it starts with a tonic, right? Chord 1. It's a solid chord, followed by the fifth chord, which is the dominant chord, right? So you have this movement from tonic, dominant, and you're going to the sixth chord, right? And then you see a little bit of the fourth chord, but much of sections A and D are tonic and dominant chords, right? So it's very clear. The characterization is very clear, and it has this bold movement, especially section D, which is the march, the moving forward piece, right? So that's one characteristic, and the characteristic of the subdominant, well used. Highlighted in pink here is a secondary dominant motion. It sort of gives you a variation or a variety within a section. So you can see in section A and section C the secondary dominant motion used. That gives, we'll get into that in the following pages, but it gives you a feeling. It gives you a feeling of movement, right, within the chord progression. So those two are used in sections A and C. The section outlined in the green, this is called, this is using the half note line cliche, right? It's basically a line cliche, but because the movement is in half notes, it's interesting. Many songs use this line cliche, so we can talk about that as well. And we'll also get into how all these components, the subdominant, the secondary dominant motion, and the half note line cliche connects to get that total feeling of section C. The section outlined in blue is the circle of fifths movement. Circle of fifths movement gives you this moving forward. It's a very bold mood. It's actually a continuation of a movement between the dominant and the tonic. And that continues actually in that blue section. Also, you can see that movement in the beginning part of D. So actually it's a lot of movement, so it matches the marching feeling. And last, the section highlighted in yellow is a borrowed minor, you can see here, borrowed minor deceptive cadence, also a Picardy-like alteration of an Aeolian cadence, right? And this is also much used in songs such as the song or the jingle used in the Super Mario Brothers, or in the Beatles songs, Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band, where Billy Shears is screamed out. Little Help from My Friend, that's also Beatles. Lady Madonna, and Any Fanfare, right? So it really gives you that fanfare feeling, or it gives you an anticipation of something great happening. So that's also effectively used in section B. Okay, so now let's look at the beginning part of the song. We said this song starts with the chorus, right? Section C. I've also outlined the functions of the chords on the right hand side here. Okay. When you look at the melody basically takes the notes from the chords, and you can see here, if you look at the pattern of the song, in section C. The first part, you see it going up using the notes of the chord, and then it comes down. And you see that, you see the same shape of the melody in this next part. We are heading to the, so the first part, the sky is clear. You have that notes from the chords. The sky is clear, sort of in a mountain shape. We are heading to the ocean, also sort of in a mountain shape, using the notes from these chords. Okay, and then we talked about the subdominant, right? Starts with the chord A, right? That's repeated. The sky is clear blue. We are heading to the ocean, and because you're sort of starting in the middle, right? You want to land somewhere, but you want to go up before you land. So that's exactly what's happening here. You're going from your subdominant to your dominant, which is more unstable, and then you go down to your tonic. So this is a very typical way of getting from somewhere unstable, you don't know where you are, to a very unstable, and then to a very stable tonic. So that's repeated. So that's very effective. So now we get into the secondary dominant motion, the G sharp 7 chord followed by the C sharp minor chord. So that's the secondary dominant motion, meaning the G sharp 7 chord, that is a dominant chord to the C sharp minor chord. But the G sharp 7 chord does not use the scale notes from the we talked about this song being in the key of E, right? The key of E, diatonic scale, does not have some of the notes from G sharp 7. So G sharp 7 is used to give a flavor, a different flavor to the key of E here. Then the C sharp becomes the first chord of the half note line cliche. You can see here 4 chords, the C sharp minor on C, C sharp minor on B, and C sharp minor on B flat, right? For this half note line cliche, there are many other songs that also use this line cliche, such as, again, songs from Beatles, Michelle, I'm Fixing a Hole, jazz standards like My Funny Valentine, In a Sentimental Mood, or the classic rock piece Stairway to Heaven. Now also, so we talked about the melody shape, right? And taking the notes from the chords for The Sky is Clear and We Are Heading to the Ocean. If you look at the latter half of section C, right? We talked about the half note line cliche, the bass sound coming down. So it's coming from here. So if you look at this, right? Right? So the bass line is coming down. Look at the melody here. It's actually going up, right? Right? So bass line, so if I take the bass line, C sharp, right? The melody is right? Yeah. So that's an interesting contrast between the movement of the bass line and the melody. Let's look at section A, right? This is melody A, so it's the second section of the song. Basically, so we talked about this song starting from the tonic, right? Starts with the E, right? Da 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 da. Right? So again, here's very strong movement, right? Very confident and stable because we're starting with tonic, using the dominant, coming back to the tonic, right? We do have the subdominant in between, but it's very short, unlike the other sections we looked at, okay? And then dominant tonic motion. Here, again, using the secondary dominant here, right? And da 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 again, the diatonic scale for E major, right? G sharp. So this note, right? Instead of this. So this note was not there in the E major diatonic scale. So we're throwing that in. And then we're giving that a dominant motion. So let's now look at section B. As we talked about, starts with the subdominant. So really gives you that feeling of you're going somewhere, but you're not exactly sure if you're going to be further unstable or you're going home to the tonic, right? So be unsure. More unsure is the dominant, right? So and then you can see here, it's an E, but it's E on G, G sharp. So you can see this bass movement. So that's very effective. And then E is again on G sharp, right? And then this is the borrowed minor deceptive cadence, right? Right? So it just keeps going up. But why we call this the borrowed minor deceptive cadence is because you don't have this. Let's look at the notes from the chord C, right? Or here, right? C, E, C natural, E, and then G natural, right? They don't belong to the except for the E. They do not belong to the E major diatonic scale, right? C sharp, and then G, right? It's G sharp. So where this comes from, also the D, right? So this sound. So D is also a sharp here. So D doesn't belong. So C and D doesn't belong. Why are they here? Actually, they become part of the E minor diatonic scale. So now it makes sense that it's part of. So if we mix the first half, right? That's the majors, that major diatonic E scale. And then we switch to minor scale, right? That's called a borrowed minor deceptive. That's called it's borrowing the minor scale. It's borrowing the notes from the minor scale of the E key. So we call it the borrowed minor, right? So why do we call it the borrowed minor deceptive cadence, right? As we said, right, the C and the D comes from the E minor scale, right? That's the E minor scale. So the C and the D comes from. So we're borrowing the notes or the chords C and D from the E minor diatonic scale, the C and D. That's why we call it the borrowed minor. Now, deceptive cadence, why we call it deceptive cadence is because if you look at 3 bars from the bottom, right? A, which is a subdominant, right? Subdominant, dominant. So after the dominant, you would expect to return to the tonic, which is the E. But we're not. We're going to C, which is a flat 6 chord, followed by the flat 7th chord, right? So we're deceiving the resolution of the dominant chord, which is the B, right? Instead of from here to here, we're going from here to, right, one note above, and then one note above. And again, this is borrowed from the E minor diatonic scale. Now, Picardy-like alteration of Aeolian. So Aeolian cadence, again, is just, Aeolian cadence is another name for the E minor diatonic scale. Right? That's an Aeolian cadence. Right? And Picardy-like alteration is, Picardy third is when you have this borrowed minor cadence, right, after the dominant. So and then the Picardy third is, it ends with the tonic, right? So this song could end with the tonic, right? And the feeling is there because we're not changing the key of this song from a major to a minor. It's still returning to the major, right? We just borrowed 2 notes from the minor scale, right? But we're returning to this E major diatonic scale. However, we're not returning actually to the E chord. It's returning to C, right? We go A, right? Which is the subdominant, B, which is the dominant, and then we do a minor, borrowed minor deceptive cadence, right? And then the Picardy-like alteration. Well, Picardy third would be E major, right? Instead, we're going to, after this D chord, and you see the pickup notes for section C again, right? Goes to A, right? So it doesn't end with a tonic, but it's still returning to the major, right? A chord A major is part of the key E major diatonic chord set, right? So we're returning to the major. So that's why we call it a Picardy-like, right? And it's using the Aeolian cadence. Okay, so that's the end of B. Okay, now section D, right? This is the chord progression for section D. This is the interlude part. I called it the reflection because it's using I'm sorry. So this chord progression, section D, is really a triumphant, right? Oh, I'm sorry. I forgot to tell you that the borrowed minor deceptive cadence with the Picardy-like alteration of Aeolian cadence, right? It's used in a lot of songs, as we already talked about. But this really is the fanfare type of feeling, right? So I just wanted to call that out. Section D, this is the marching, moving forward. We're progressing, so it's, as we talked about, the movie is about adventure and friendship. So it's all about the movement, feeling more courageous, feeling the friendship and moving forward in the adventure. So again, this section starts with the tonic. And then if we just look at the top chords, right? You can see all this dominant tonic motion. That's really the moving feeling, right? Right? So that's the dominant motion, right? And then B sus4 B. Okay, then from here we have a sequence of 5 dominant to tonic motions. All right? So if we just do the chords on top, if we just take the root of each of the chords, right? Starts with the G sharp, right? C sharp, F sharp, B, I have to go E, A, right? And then even after that, B sus4, 5 sus4 to E, right? And then from E, right? That's also a dominant motion. And then from B to a tonic, that's also a dominant to a tonic motion. Right, so all this can be explained in the circle of fifth diagram, where the 5 diatonic to tonic movements you can see here, starting with the G sharp, right, A flat, C sharp, D flat, right? So it's that circle of fifths movement. So if you do more, ultimately you'll return to G sharp. Okay. Another point I just like to highlight here is the bass movement, right? Because it's not necessarily the same as the root of the chord. That's why we have the on chords, right? So if we do just the bass movement, right, starts with a tonic. Dun, 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 dun. Ends with a tonic, right? Right? And then E. So that's a movement of the fifth dominant motion. And then, right, that's also a dominant motion, right? And then, so if we look at the bass line, dun, 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 and then A, right? Although the chord, right? So if we go B, so you can see here, right? Very nice movement, right? From here, and then, so if you look at the bass, dun, 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 and then C, C sharp, B flat, B, and then the bass tone resolved to the C sharp. Okay, now let's look at F sharp. F sharp, right, root of the chord, bass. So the A sharp resolves to the B, right? So that bass line movement is also nice, and it adds to the, and it's actually this bass line is going up, right? If you start from A sharp, right? And then B, and then from B to C, and then C sharp. If you start from A, so that's 5 bass notes that's moving chromatically upwards, right? And then the chords on top are moving in the fifth movements, right? Movement of fifths from dominant to tonic. Right. Okay. So now we're at this last section of this introduction, right? Singing the chorus section. So let's do some singing, right? Analysis of the Japanese singing. The fundamental difference between English singing or English language or pronunciation versus the Japanese is that in Japanese, most of the sounds are the sound syllable. Each sound syllable is either constructed by a single vowel, which is A, E, I, O, U, right? Only 5. Or we have consonants added to the vowels. And if you, in any combination, the pronunciation of the vowels are always the same. So A is always A, right? E is always E, I is always I, U is always U, and O is always O. So adding, let's say, K on top of that, ka, ki, ku, ke, ko. Adding S on top of that, sa, shi, su, se, so. Right? Adding T on top of it, ta, chi, tsu, te, to. So a, I, u, e, o always remains the same, except for this sound, which is similar to an N sound. That does not have a vowel. Other than that, all of the rest of the Japanese pronunciation sound syllables end with a fairly long vowel. So if you look at the name of the group that's singing this RPG, SEKAI NO OWARI. SEKAI NO OWARI, right? So SEKA, S-E-K-A. S-E is one sound syllable. Se, K-A, ka. I is one of the 5, A-E-I-O-U, single vowel sound. So SEKAI NO OWARI. Similar. Same thing with the lyrics. So, Sora wa a, Sora wa a. Sora wa aoku sumi watari, umi wo mezashite aruku. Kowai mono nante nai, bokura wa mou hitori janai. Right? So we'll do that again. Sora wa aoku sumi watari, umi wo mezashite aruku. Kowai mono nante nai, bokura wa mou hitori janai. So that's the singing in Japanese. You can get more of this in the Japanese vocal lessons, also from Honey Music School. So this is the end of the introduction video for our music theory course. Okay, well, thank you very much for watching this video. I hope this video was informative. If you like Japanese music and is interested in understanding the music theory behind it, please join us in this course. You can also sign up for a trial lesson anytime using the link on our Honey Music School website. I look forward to seeing you soon. Until then, goodbye.
Hi guys, thank you so much for watching this video. We are the music school which can learn songs in the Japanese language at the same time. All members are native Japanese teachers. We look forward to hearing from you. Bye bye!